So to upload the image, first we will set up our retrofit, and to do this I will create an interface here. So let's create new, and then we have Kotlin file class, and I will create a file named MyAPI. Let's create an interface, that is MyAPI, and here we will create a companion object, and inside the companion object we will create operator fun invoke. This operator fun invoke will return us MyAPI, and here we will write return retrofit.builder. Then we will add the base URL, and we need to find out the base URL. Then we also need to add a converter factory, that is our JSON converter factory. Then we will build our retrofit, and we will create our API service, because we need to return this MyAPI, not the retrofit instance. So after build we will call create, and here we will pass our API interface, that is MyAPI class.java, and we have our retrofit interface ready. So when we will call this API like this, MyAPI, and when we will put parenthesis, it will call this operator fun invoke, and this will return us the instance of this MyAPI that will have our API functions to upload the image. So let's define the function that will upload the image, and as we need to upload a file to our backend, we need to define a multi-part request. So we have a multi-part request, and it will be a post request like this. We need to define the endpoint, but first let's define the function. So we will name this function as upload image. This function needs two parameters because our API accepts two parameters. The first one is part, and this is our file that we will send to the API, and let's name it image, and the type would be multipart body.part. The next parameter is again part, because when you use multi-part request you need to define all fields as part, but for this field we will define the name that we need to send. But for the fields type part we do not need to define name. Actually we cannot define name for this types, but this thing is a string that we need to send. As you can see in the API, we need to send DESC and image. Image is a file, that means it is a part. So for part we won't define the name, but for other values we will define the name. So for this we will define the value, that is DESC, that means description, and then we will define the variable name. You can give any name, I'm giving DESC, that is the same name, and the type would be request body like this. So we have our function that will upload the image to the backend server. Now we need to put the URL, and the URL is this, you can see. So we will copy this URL and we will paste it here, and we will paste it till image uploader with a trailing slash. It is very important. Now we will put the endpoint here inside our post, and it is an API call equals to images. But we do not need to call this API, we need to call the upload API, because this will give us the list of uploaded images that we don't want for now. So we have the API call ready, we have our retrofit ready, but we have one more problem, and the problem is we cannot use localhost. So instead of localhost we need to find the IP that will work, and to find the IP we need to open command prompt and run the command ipconfig like this, and the IP in our case is, I think, this 192.168.139. To make sure the IP is working, open your device, open browser and write the IP 192.168.139. If it opens XAMPP page, that means the API is correct. If it's not working or it's not opening the XAMPP page or whatever server you are using, it should open that page. In case the page is not opening, the API is wrong and the project will not work. So it is very important that you find the correct IP. So in this case, in my case, the IP is this 192.168.139. So I will copy the IP and I will put instead of localhost. That's all. So my API interface is ready. Now I will create a model class to parse the API response. So when we upload an image, we get this response. Oops. We need to send a post request. So we get this response, error, message and image. So we will define one more data class here, that is upload response, and it is a data class, and we have val error of type boolean, we have val message of type string, and we have val image of type string. That's it. Image is nullable because in case the image is not uploaded, we won't get this image value from the response. So we will make it nullable. Now go back to my API and we will define the return type of our upload image function as call of type upload response. Now everything is fine.